Yo, it's your boy Ancient Albatross here behind the scenes today. But we got a very special evening for y'all. However, before we get started on that, just a quick reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and subscribe to us over on YouTube. It is a great help to our channel. We've gotten this far with your support, and we hope to reach even greater further heights with your continued support. So thank you all very much. But without further ado, Dean, what are we doing here today?
Hey, we're here with another member of the MCG team, none other than the ever elusive managing editor, Teri Litorco, a self-described fangirl and lover of tabletop gaming. She has a wonderful resume. I mean, it goes as far as Geek and Sundry Vlogs channel. She was an author of the Civilized Guide to Tabletop Gaming, becoming manager and editor at Geek and Sundry. This is just awesome. You know, she's also a senior manager at Renegade Games. So it's awesome to finally have her on the show. We've been trying, missing each other in the night like ships. Welcome, Teri. Please say hello to our audience out there, and welcome to Cypher Unlimited.
Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. I guess I have a pretty storied geeky history, and I'm happy to talk about it. But Geek and Sundry. I was at Renegade Games, which is like a board game company. I'm landed here at MCG now. So, and I don't plan on leaving. I've already told everyone, like, if I'm going, there will be like virtual nail scratches in the doorways as they yank me out. So I will be the last one to turn off the lights and lock the doors.
Feelings mutual with MCG, and welcome to the CU, Teri. It hasn't been from lack of trying. We finally made it happen.
I think it's also because I'm like one of those pumpkins. Like there's a certain time of day where I just turn into pumpkin, just like Cinderella. But like I'm not Cinderella. I'm like the little mice that become human and then don't become human anymore. So
that's awesome. So can you tell us and our audience a little bit about yourself and your gaming experience?
Yeah. So I've been a lifelong gamer. I like to talk about myself as a lifelong gamer. And like hobby gaming was introduced to me pretty early on by my father. So this geek was first made by a father who used to hustle chess on the streets of Manila in the Philippines. And so when I was 5 years old, my father taught me how to play chess. And that first game we played, I beat him, and then I have never beat him since. And so that is my history with like starting out, age 5, that was me. Then growing up with video games, comics, super nerdy stuff. But it wasn't until like I was 18. I was living with my then boyfriend, now partner, husband, father of my child. And we were living together for university, and I was trying to find something. Now I am 4'8", and he is 6'4". Now, I was looking for something that I thought he put away, which meant I was up on top of, like, a stack of chairs, trying to find something in the top of the closet, and I see this box, like this banker's box, and I'm like, is it in there? If it's not, the year is 2002, so I don't know if the audience is quite as familiar with the format of adult materials of that era, but they were physical, and so I was expecting to grab this box and either have what I was looking for in there or something like really heavy, and like I wouldn't be able to pull it out. And so I grab this box and I yank it, and all I hear is this rattling sound, like that came down, and I look into this box, and all I see are these tiny little miniatures that look like Zerg from StarCraft. And that was my introduction to Warhammer 40,000. I waited for him. I'm like, what is this stuff? And he's like, okay, listen, don't judge me, but this is this really geeky thing I do. And ever since then, I've kind of been really into the hobby gaming space. So
I thought this conversation was gonna turn way to the left. few minutes earlier. I'm like, adult material, and then little figurine. I love that. That's awesome.
It was like the irony is I like to say it was a different kind of adult material because you can't afford both in life, right? Like it's only miniatures from Games Workshop or bust, right?
Well, when you look at it, though, that's geek porn anyway, you know.
Oh my gosh, right? Oh, good grief. I was after I found that the Tyranids were his, and then I acquired a full Tau army, and so that was my army for basically the entire time I was collecting and playing and painting. Tau was my jam, and so that's kind of how I got into like modern hobby gaming, and at pretty young, I guess, for someone who didn't know about it. Like, you know, Games Workshop wasn't as big a thing up in Canada where I lived, and so it like being able to discover it through someone like, isn't that normally how everyone kind of discovers, you know, gaming anyways, right? Like you know someone who introduces you and brings you into the fold, and so yeah, I was really lucky to have Nathan do that for me, and to this day we collect together, we play together, we learn games together. He's in my RPG group. I'm running Talus for us currently, so like we still game together, and yeah, the geekiness is like built into my family and my relationships in a way that I don't know I would if I could have foreseen that growing up as a young woman.
I gotta ask, are you running the Cypher version of Taurus or the 5e version?
Oh yes, listen, I love Cypher. Like the freedom you have with it, because like I think this is true of my gaming group, because my game group came from a lot of war gamers, right? Like so everyone I roleplay with was a super miniature wargamer kind of thing. And so when we used to play other miniature games that really cared about like distances and positioning, like to a weird precision, our entire role-playing experience was just basically digital or physical multiplayer wargaming. And it didn't feel different, right? And now we basically, you know, joke around and have fun and let the story kind of play through, let the characters play through, and because we don't have to worry about those I don't know, fiddly bits, I guess. I still play miniature war games, right? Like I still do like that crunch, but when it comes to like having fun with my friends and like, you know, beer and pretzels gaming, like it's that precision is not as necessary, and I don't feel like beating things up all the time, right?
Amen to that.
That's the great part about Cypher. It scratches the other itch, you know?
Yeah.
Scratches the story itch. But speaking of scratching story itches, I mean, you're the managing editor at Monte Cook Games. Could you tell our audience exactly what that means? You know, since for those who don't know?
So it sounds really fun. Like, it sounds like I have a lot of like control in that I'm lucky enough to be the person at the company who sees every word that we print throughout the stages of production. So like back before it even gets edited, I'm starting to look at it, and you know, through the editing process, through the proofing process, I'm looking at spreads after layout, and then when the book comes out, and then validating the PDF versions afterwards. I see every version of our product at basically every stage of its design, and so I get to be the game's cheerleader in a way. Like I get to be the special mama hen who gets to see it through, gets to the printer, knows it's going out, gets to be excited, watches social media when people start getting them in the mail, and like being super excited and getting to partake in that. It's one of those things where I get to do that more than anyone else because, you know, the designers, they do their thing and then they're on to another thing, right? And then the folks who are like delivering and marketing, they don't necessarily see what it looks like 6-8 months before. What did this thing that the designers were making look like even? And so I get the privilege of being able to see that. You know, obviously I'm in charge of editing and proofing and making sure things look okay and look great for print when it goes out. Just like that second set of eyes to make sure everything is hunky dory. And I also manage the schedule when it comes to production on the Monte Cook side. So everything up to when we send the files off to the printer, I'm the one who is bugging everyone. Hey, how are we on this date? Hey, how are you feeling about this deadline? Are you gonna make it? Are you gonna make it? And, you know, I am very lucky to have designers who do not feel like I'm nagging them constantly, even though I feel like I can be, yeah, I can be a little bit of a mama hen going, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Are we gonna make this? Are we gonna make this? And that happens a lot, but it's really gratifying to be able to support these extremely creative people. Like, I have worked in tabletop games. I've worked with designers. I am not a designer. I should be very clear about that. Like, I do not write games. I do not mechanics and balance. Those things just elude me. My brain isn't built for that. But you know, when I get to see that process and when I get to see how they're able to tackle the challenges they put up for themselves and create stories and create experiences and adventures, those things just put me in awe. And so I as a fangirl am lucky enough to get a little bit of insight into that, and so I'm extremely privileged in this role.
I love the fact that you get to see the entire process from beginning to end. You get to see all the changes, all the reworks, and that's so fascinating to me. And what you just said is like a perfect lead-in to our next question. But before I say that, chat, you guys all have wonderful questions for Teri, and Teri's gonna will be gracious enough to answer most of your questions. But can you please label all your questions with the word question in the front, so I'll know to cut and paste it onto our document so we don't miss any of your great questions. But with that said, you worked on so many different fields in the gaming space, like you said. You were a managing editor, an event organizer, a marketing manager. You were even a YouTube content creator at one time.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for someone wanting to get into the job industry that isn't necessarily a designer or artist?
You know, I love that question because I feel like there are so many roles within the tabletop industry that, like, everyone thinks about being a designer. A lot of people who love games and play games, you know, they imagine themselves designing games because that's how they most closely interface with this hobby, right? Is through the design, through games. They're often changing and shaping their own games with these materials, right? So it kind of makes sense. But when it comes to like the broad spectrum of games, you have to remember that this is like a huge industry, right? So when it comes to production, when it comes to like design and art, like when it comes to accounting, like people don't realize these are all things that happen in the gaming industry. And so if it's something you want to get into, it's not particularly challenging if you're looking for the right roles in the right company, right? Like, if you know you have the skills, if you're like, man, I'm a really fantastic accounnt, there's probably a job for you in the gaming industry out there. Absolutely. Like, you can find an accounting job out there. I assure you. You good at, if you're good at HR, you're good at project management, like, which is, part of what I do in my role. there are all sorts of positions and roles. Obviously, art design, graphic design, but even like customer service. When you send an email to Monte Games, for example, there are extremely amazing people who answer those emails. Jennifer, who handles customer service, I have listened to her philosophy on like responding to people who send us emails, and it's not just like a rote customer email kind of thing. It's this empathy driven experience that she's trying to create for you. And so like for me, when I get to work with people who are approaching their job in a way that is, thoughtful and, empathetic, like you can do that if in the gaming industry in multiple facets. It's not just design. And so when I think about the ways I got in, like I came in through content creation and like writing blogs and making videos. Before that, even I was like producing a wargaming podcast for my partner and his best friend, like the best man at my wedding. So he, they were for years they were recording a podcast and like being in that space. When you have the passion to do the thing at a hobby level, like you can always make a choice to say, this is my hobby, I love this, and I'm going to keep it my hobby so I can continue to enjoy it. Or, in a hobby way. Or you can say, I'm going to become a professional in the space. But it helps immensely if you already have, like, the experience doing the thing you want to do in games. So if you want to be a marketer in tabletop games, build up your marketing skills, right? Like you should be on social media. If you're promoting yourself, you're promoting another company. Before I went into marketing for Renegade Game Studios, in my early 20s, I was in marketing, doing marketing for local car dealerships and that sort of thing. So like these are skills that I've honed in other different industries. My project management experience comes from like I used to manage projects where we built cell phone towers. So those really thick flag poles you see, those are actually cell phone towers. And so if you stand 20 feet away from them, you will get exceptional cell phone service. Building out networks like that, and so I got to work in a totally different industry, but the skills were totally applicable in games. And so if you want to be in the games industry and you have a specialty, you can do it. If you're really new and you want to try something in the world, do the thing as a hobby. Like do the thing for yourself. Do the thing to learn the thing, right? So when I was writing blogs and making YouTube videos, I was making YouTube videos on YouTube for fun for me because I was sick of my husband stealing all the clever things I was saying to him about miniature war games and using it on his podcast and not giving me credit for it. That I started a YouTube channel out of spite so that people could see me say it first with my face in my head and know that he was stealing from me. But that was where I started, and I was lucky enough to develop and hone my voice and my skills in video creation, and be able to take that into a paid role at Geek and Sundry on the Vlogs channel. And so those are the sorts of things that you can do if you really want to get in. There are many ways that everyone has their own story, but I think that skills are absolutely something that you can always learn, and almost every skill in any business is equally applicable in the games industry.
I love that you mentioned accounting and customer support, because I think those are the unsung heroes that no one ever mentions. When someone has to work the books, and someone has, especially MCG's customer support is phenomenal. And Jennifer, when you're saying she writes emails, she writes personalized emails to everyone. And that has to go above and beyond. And I just want to say, in husband's defense, that's part of our job is taking credit for our better halves' great ideas because we don't come up with it ourselves.
Yeah, no, you know
My
what?
wife just said, really.
That's fair. You know what? That's fair. Like I I think when it comes to like the different places where people can end up, you never know, right? Like I knew people who started in like just volunteering at cons. Like if you run games as a GM at cons because a company would did a hey, we need people, want to come help us out. Those are one of the best places to start up because it's the easiest place for companies to know you, to know your face, and know what you're about, and then like you because you're awesome. And when you work for a company who has needs, and they kind of know that you're awesome, and you can fill those needs, it's a lot easier to get in the door than just cold calling, shooting off emails, sending impersonal resumes, that sort of thing too. So like knowing the company you want to work for and making yourself known to them is a really big thing as well when it comes to getting into the industry.
Dean, I think you're muted.
Yeah, that's great, Terry. I mean, absolutely awesome. And we were talking about your love of miniature gaming, so it's no secret that everybody knows this. And you've already stated you still play, but do you have a favorite game, or is there like?
So my jam right now, I have for the past, I don't know, I'd say 5-6 years, I've been playing skirmish size games. So miniatures, games that have like maybe up to a dozen miniatures per side. So right now I'm really into a game called Star Wars Shatterpoint, which is a miniature game published by Atomic Mass Games, where you can take all sorts of you can build a squad, and it's interesting to me because it is a scenario based tactical game where you the point isn't to just pew pew kill everyone. Like that's less interesting to me than like holding position and defending and thoughtfully maneuvering. And those are the things that I always find interesting when it comes to miniature games. My favorite phase of a game is the movement phase, where you can actually affect the outcome based on positioning. And it's why I like to play with things, right? Like when I play a miniature game, it's the physicality of that and the thing occupying space. And it gets even more interesting to me when you have really interesting terrain and tables where there are levels and you can really just immerse yourself in that space. Like those are the things that I love. So that's like one of the games I'm currently collecting. And yeah, I play. Gosh, I play so many skirmish size games at this point now because they're Bushido, which is a game. Occasionally you'll see them at Gen Con. They're like an independent company. They make these miniatures. They were like one of the first companies that had Asian women. And I was like, well, I'm gonna play that game. And yeah, so it's like the feudal Japan fantasy land where they have samurai and ninjas, but also they have like fox people and oni and some I don't know if everyone's familiar with the crazy looking wheel demon in Japanese mythology, but there's one of those. It's pretty fun and interesting. I love that game. It is really crunchy and really interesting. And it has a really cool dice mechanic where you roll opposed, right? So one of the things that I love about games is how they approach resolving actions, right? There's always an interesting thoughtfulness there when a designer makes the decision to show you how to resolve something. It tells you about what they're prioritizing. It tells you about what their thinking is in terms of probabilities. They know their math of their game, and even when you even in the least crunchy games or fluffy games that you have, your designer still's done the math, and that to me says a lot. And so one of the things that Bushido does that I have not encountered in any other game is that when you take an action, you have a dice pool. So it's like, okay, in a combat, I have 6 dice. And you then decide how many of those 6 dice you're going to put into attacking or defending. Because in a close combat, you're doing both, right? You're going to punch, but as you're punching, you're also opening yourself up to being punched, right? And so you got to know how much effort you're going to put into, like, putting off that attack versus defending against a potential attack as you make an opening. And that tension is done, like, it's hidden, so you and your opponent do it together, and it's hidden, and then you reveal, okay, I'm gonna put, like, all my dice into attack, but if you land one, I'm screwed. Like, my head is coming off, so this is what's gonna happen. And so that's a really interesting mechanic to me. But I play games with card mechanics where the probability curve is a fixed curve based on a deck of cards. I've played games where, it's not D6s, it's D20s, and you're trying to roll low all the time. Like, you want ones every time, which is, you'd think, like, as someone who rolls as poorly as me would be great at. It was terrible. Like, I sucked at that game. I've never seen so many 20s in my life. It's one of those things where you realize, oh man, I'm just unlucky, it's okay.
That's pretty awesome, and I like
to have to roll low, I roll high. That's just the nature of me with dice.
Right? Yeah.
I was going to say though, that's actually pretty awesome, Terry. I mean, everything that you're saying, and it makes a lot of sense, So, just a little quick add-on to that. So, since you like physical things, are you the type of person who, when you have a role-playing game, do you like props and miniatures and stuff when you're in an RPG?
When I play, my RPG group, we are across like two time zones basically. So I'm in the east, they're in mountain. I used to live in the mountain time zone. Like, I grew up in Alberta, Canada, where like it gets real cold, and so there's nothing to do in the winter except for talk to your friends online. We make it a point, like, I think as mini gamers, being the kind of people that we are, we make it a point to like build our character in Hero Forge, like, and so we'll like pick the colors of our clothes, and it's kind of like fashion dolls. So like me and my friends, that's how we do our thing, but we don't make physical miniatures, partly because I like a bit of that mind's eye, right? Like, when you play those scenes out, you don't necessarily need to have them on the table in the same way that you really have to know, like, I am 6 inches away from this guy because I can move 6 inches. Oh, he's 6 1/4 inches out. Oh, I can't make that attack. I'm standing here like a dum-dum, gonna eat some bullets now. And so, like, that precision is not necessary, I feel, in the kinds of games that I like to play. Like, that's not to say that, like, I don't understand, and other people who do like it, this is a bad way to play games. It's just not. I have that itch scratched with miniature war games that I want something different in my role-playing game experience. And so that's kind of how I approach it, and that's also why we don't really do a lot of minis. I do, like, I've made gifts where, like, because we made our characters up in Hero Forge, I have bought, like, my group their characters for Christmas gifts and stuff. But, like, it's more of a cute little, like, doodad and a gubbin rather than like an actual game piece. Whereas when I play miniature war games, these are, like, part of the hobby for me is miniature wargaming. The majority of miniature wargaming, ironically enough, is something that I do kind of by myself, right? Like, I build the miniatures, I paint them by myself. The number of hours I spend, like, making the miniature a thing, a game piece that I am proud to have on the table, that looks nice, that lets me immerse myself in that universe, is, like, leagues in factors more time than I actually end up playing those games, just because, to me that part of the hobby is a really huge part. It's like, it's one of the few places where, like, as a gamer, I can, like, kind of zone out, right? Nothing, when you're painting a miniature that is this big and it is in front of your face and you've got your brush, it's really easy for the rest of the world to fall away. You can live in the present. And being the kind of person that I am, who's extremely, high-strung and anxious generally, having space and a place to like really give myself a moment to be present and only in that moment is a big thing for me, and one of the reasons why I'm interested in miniatures, and I still keep that hobby up, because it's a whole separate thing. Again, this is not something I really have with when it comes to role playing, because for me, role playing is intrinsically social, and it is the investment I have with my friends, like to really strengthen the relationships with people I care about. Whereas miniature wargaming is like an investment in myself and the relationship I have with myself and the time I give myself, right? It's a self-care kind of space. And so it's a little bit different, but yeah.
I think they're both fantastic hobbies and both are well worth getting into. You've been with MCG for a while now, right?
A little while, yeah.
Do you have a favorite project you worked on so far?
Yeah, I still am. I will always have a soft spot for the Darkest House. For me, I came into the company and like we were like working on Tallis, trying to get it out. Like it was a big thing. It was a really like that was the product of the moment. And as soon as that stopped, we went into the Darkest House, and I not only got to see a game come into being, but I got to see Monte think about the way people were gaming at the time. Like, I got to be a part of like making an app for a game in a role-playing space. Like all of these things I were all new to me. And despite that, I was able to be a part of it and see how the team really came together around this thing that was, kind of new to them too, like this format that was totally new, and we were all just trying to solve problems together, and so it was really interesting to see Monte's vision articulated, and then see a team come together and make it like a thing, right? And so that to me was really special. I will always hold it in my heart. The art and the aesthetics are totally my thing too. Like, as the goth kid growing up, I love that dark aesthetic. I love the creepy kind of horror sort of feel. The art, I love the experience of this game. Like I think The Darkest House was one of the first things I ever ran as a GM, because I was just not a comfortable... I never felt comfortable enough, especially with my friends, one of my friends is an extremely good GM, and so I was very intimidated at the time, but The Darkest House was like one of those games that I was actually comfortable enough to run for my friends. It was the first game I ran for them because of the way it was laid out, because of how accessible everything was to me and how easily I could share with them, and the fact that I gamed with these people who were super far away, so it was like made for my gaming group, and so like it'll always hold a special place in my heart because of that.
That's awesome. And Darkest House, and you're right, the Darkest House is a brilliant project. So.
It was really interesting. Like it was like the first thing I came into, and in terms of like I got to see this project from start to finish, and like it's just it's just a very different experience that let me see just how talented and dedicated and incredible the people I got to work with, these people I have never worked with before, but like got to work with, were. And like, yeah, it's just special for me and for so many reasons.
That's awesome. Dean?
Yes, and it's exciting to hear. Thank you for sharing that. So, with that being said, in your opinion, what's the most challenging part of being an editor for a gaming company?
I think someone in the chat say something along the lines of like how nervous does it make you feel when you ship something that might have an error in it? And I think that it is something that is always on my mind, right? Like, and I don't think that any editor out there, anyone who's involved in like making a thing and making it like a physical thing, like you can't just like replace it. And like this is not Cats the movie where we can throw in an upgrade, or video games where it's like, yeah, there's a day one patch because we know we shipped an imperfect product. Like, no, it's got to come off the press and it's ready to go, and it needs to be the best it can be at the time. And so that's probably the most nerve-wracking thing, is like, I always want to deliver a product that is, and like a game and something that shows how much work went into it, right? And I know how much work the designers have put into it. I know how much work the artists have put into it. I know how much work, the graphics and art like team has done to make this beautiful thing. And I know how much time and investment the marketing team has done to like get the word out on this thing. And when you have a product that is riddled with typos, that is the easiest way to eliminate and make invisible all that other work that happens for that product. And so, like, shipping, I'm perfection is something that I always strive for, and I know that is impossible to attain, but I will always do my best to chase that high watermark, because it is something that, to me, that says, we really have worked hard for you. When we give you this book, this is something that a lot of people have poured their hearts into, and I want you to see just how much work they put into it. And so when you have text that's just, you don't notice it, like that's to me, that says I've done my job. Like, everything is good. We've done what we need to do on the editorial team. That's probably the most nerve-wracking thing. The other most nerve-wracking thing within my role as managing editor, managing schedule, is like dealing with the logistics and being aware of like, okay, we got to meet these deadlines. The printer's waiting for this. It was really fun. I had a fun, super fun time, 2021, 2022, when there were paper shortages and electricity shortages in China as we were printing books and products and that sort of thing. Like, we make books, so when paper is at a shortage, all of a sudden you feel it in a way that is pretty, nerve-wracking. But, that's a thing that's less, that I have less control over, I guess. And so, yeah, the nice thing is, though, and I often say this because, to me, again, being the anxious person that I am, I really appreciate the fact that if I screw up and there is a typo in a book, nobody's gonna die. Right? Like, nobody is gonna die. Unlike, like, if you're at NASA and you have a typo in one of your equations, someone could die. Or you're a doctor and you dose wrong your medication, someone could die. Like, nobody's gonna die if I make a mistake. So I can actually, like, I have a chance to like fix it and address it and be better.
I'm gonna warn you now. Don't believe that nobody dies. There are several gamers out there in the world who have multiple deaths every time they find a problem in a book or an issue. They lose their. They don't die, but they lose their free little peak of mind.
So, Terry, I could definitely see the anxiety, because within 20 seconds of a book release, there is someone somewhere on social media saying, on page 237,
we have, and that's the thing, is like,
you're missing a dot in your eye.
There are so many like checks of that text, right? It's not just me. I have a team of really talented editors and proofers. The designers go over the books again. Monte goes over the books. Like, we all look at this thing multiple times, multiple eyes, and like, it really sucks. Like, I cannot tell you. Yeah, it freaking sucks when there's an error in the book. And I feel it, and I eat it, and I have shame. But it, I take solace in the fact knowing that, like, I didn't kill anybody.
Also, for the most part, I think your guys put out phenomenal products with very minimal errors. And I mean, you can't say the same for a lot of bigger companies than you guys are.
Yeah,
So,
I think something else that Monte Cook Games does smart as well is a lot of times especially when they have the play test where you be able to get a play test, they take a lot of information and a lot of feedback because we get the raw text. So we can give that feedback at that time. I don't know if that helps, but I think that might be part of it.
Absolutely. Like I know that the designers take in that feedback and they like when there's feedback of what's playtest, they playtest their stuff in their own groups. We playtest internally our stuff too. Like I am lucky enough to get to play games with the incredible designers, like 3 or 4 times a month where we're just playtesting this thing they're making. And so again, when I say I get to see things at every stage of their creation, I'm really lucky, and I do. But those tests actually do have a lot of impact on the design. So that feedback that designers get, they assess it, right? Like it's never in a vacuum, right? They can't create in a vacuum. And so, yeah, as they get feedback from the playtests, they do. They do change.
Earlier, Ian, let me just jump into we got like 20 minutes. You mentioned earlier that you was a little nervous about GMing, but I'm gonna tell you were gracious enough at GameholeCon to run a game of Devil's Dandy Dogs for me and some of the other fans on last minute, by the way, on the last day of the con, and you were fantastic. We had so much fun, and we had a blast. Do you have a favorite game to run? Do you have a favorite game to play in?
Okay, so I love playing Cypher games. I love playing characters where I can do really fun things and really weird things. I remember there was a We're All Mad Here playtest we did where I created a character that was just a ram, but had been Mary's little lamb, but just grew up. And I carried my ciphers in my second stomach, so when I wanted to pull out a cipher, that was a muffin, I was oh, and then out comes this muffin that I used to do the thing. Like those are the moments that I love being able to play when I play Cypher games. When it comes to running games, I really enjoy running the story games we have. So Who the Devil Are You? And Devil's Dandy Dogs are really, really special games for me because there's a lot of input from the players. Because it's a minimal prep kind of experience. It's just everyone gets to come together, throw it's like stone soup, I guess. Everyone throws stuff into the pot and you stir it up, and then everyone gets to have this awesome bowl of this mix that we've all created together. And I think those are really fun for me. I also like them because, and maybe this is me being the war gamer, when the majority of games that I love playing when I'm a war gamer are games you play at the store where you just play a stranger. It's like blind dating. When you play those minimal prep games at a convention, especially, you just get to meet cool people, right? And so for me, being able to say, just jump into a game, not know anyone, have no characters, have no story prepped, it's okay, we're all gonna have fun anyways, and have people who are strangers come out 2 hours later, and now I have this connection with them. To me, that's kind of a special thing that happens, and that happens with the story games uniquely, because no two story games are ever the same. And so yeah, I love those, especially in convention spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're getting to the end of things. So out of everything you said, is there any other information you'd like to share with us about MCG, yourself, or anything you want to tell the community to look forward to?
So there are I know that Magnus Archives is going to be freaking amazing. We've been doing playtests on it. I don't know if I'm the leaky faucet now, just spilling, dripping all around, but like that game is so cool and so special, and what Monte and Bruce are doing with it is just exciting. And so someone who, like, I got to discover this podcast because we were making this game, and I love the podcast. I think it's super cool. Again, that goth, like, you know, horror kid in me just loves this sort of stuff. And get to play in that world, in that paradigm with, like, you know, in a modern setting, is really special. I cannot impress on people enough. So, like, that's coming, and it's something that I'm personally really excited about, and I hope everyone who gets their copy of it is going to be equally excited about. Yeah, so that's kind of the big one that I foresee. And the other thing is, I know we just sent It's Only Magic. It's coming back to be laid out, and it's going to be beautiful, and I'm super excited about that. That's just a cozy magic game. I love what our team can do with these really interesting settings, right? Like, it's not just this generic magic modern setting. Like, it's actually this thoughtfully built kind of approach to modern world magic. And so I'm really excited about that. I think it's gonna be great. And the bestiary. I am seeing spreads of the bestiary. I don't know if anyone has gotten to see just how cool this like, have heard me talk about it. I've dripped a little bit about it at Gamehole Con. But
if you watch any of our videos where we had Monte, we had Sean on, we had Charles on multiple times, we were like, we need a bestiary, we need one.
It's so, not only is it like, this bestiary is going to be like, as a resource, it'll be incredible. The designs are really cool. The creatures are super cool. But we're also doing this thing we've never done before, where, like, Bear, who is the art director, and Javier, who's designer, the graphic designer, came into our company summit earlier, like last year, and said, "Yeah, so we're gonna do the bestiary. How would you guys feel if we could, like, do, like, fold opens and spreads where you could, like, have bigger, like, if you had a creature that was like this many pages, like, you can actually have more than this pages, so we could do that." And the designer's eyes were like, what? So in the bestiary, we are going to have spreads like that. So you open up a page, and it's not just this 2-page spread, it's like 3 pages. There's more information that you can open up and look at for these creatures. There's a lot of information that you can pack into there, and it's all still available to you in one, like, open spread. You don't have to flip pages and try to track it down. It's there. And so, like, from a production standpoint, like, the production me going to the printers, that's really exciting. From a design perspective, and from a nerd perspective, like a geek who I love things, right? Like, I'm a thingy kind of person. I like miniatures, I like my books. That, to me, is super exciting. And I think it's gonna be, like, I've seen some of the preliminary designs on them, and they look so good. So, yeah, look forward to that. That's gonna be amazing.
You heard that, right? Could you clip this out for a short? You don't know what you just did, Terry. This is gonna be the combo for, like, the next 24 hours on the server. Could you clip that out for a short?
Yeah.
I'm saying he got it. This is gonna spark so much combo in the next 24 hours.
It's gonna be
listen.
absolutely awesome.
It's gonna be awesome. Like, it's funny because, like, we had these conversations like after it was conceived, like, we're gonna do a bestiary. That was, like, already decided. But man, when we were like, okay, we're gonna do these spreads out, and the designers are like, oh, we can do that now. And so it's having multiple of those in a book too is, like, it's super cool. I wish I could take credit for it. I can't. I can just be a fangirl and geek out about it and tell you it's going to be awesome. And yeah, do talk about it. Please go ahead. Geek out about it too. It's going to be really cool. And yeah.
That is, like, absolutely awesome. So You're muted, Anthony. You're muted, Anthony.
Guys, before we hop into thanks, D. Before we hop into our world famous rapid fire questions, we're gonna ask a couple of questions from the audience. I know we only have Terry for about a half an hour more, so we'll try to ask as many as we can, and then we'll move into our rapid fire questions. But Terry, the first question is from Jason C. Shadowmane, and Jason asks, could you outline the difference between editing and proofreading?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So when I approach editing, what we're trying to do is take the designer's words and their vision and polish it so that it is the truest, clearest, most solid and well articulated and organized version of that vision. And so when you're editing, you're just really working with the designer to capture what they're trying to do and make sure that that whole thing that they're trying to make is exactly as they want it to be, and in a way that the person who ends up reading it can see exactly what that designer wanted. When it comes to proofreading, you're just looking for mistakes. Like, is everything okay? Are the page numbers right? Are there stray commas? Is there 2 spaces after a period when there only should be 1? Do the quote marks go in the right directions? Like, are the bullets appropriately spaced? Like, the kind of proof, when you're proofing something, you're proofing it for the print, and so it's really about making eliminating errors specifically, right? Because at that point, when you are looking at something at this proofing stage, it has already been polished and refined through editing with the designer to capture the vision of the designer. And so that's the big difference. Is one of them is really just a refining of vision, whereas the other is just like you're really doing just cleanup.
Dean, you want to ask the next question?
Our next question is from Jack One Spade. He says, have you tried Age of Sigmar, or are you just a 40K from GW?
So I have played Age of Sigmar. I had a demon army for a while there. I just don't have, like, I'm collecting, and we're I have Age of Sigmar miniatures right now that I'm building, like the what is it, the Deepkin, which are like fish elves out of Age of Sigmar. They have some of the most spectacular miniatures in all of I dare say, I think in all of the miniature wargaming space. There is a dude who is like water cape guy is how we call him, and he's like, his miniature is like this, but he's got a water cape that he's floating on, and that is like open, and like there's spaces in it, and there's fish swimming through it, and like turtles, and it is one of the most spectacular miniatures. And like, I collect a lot of Games Workshop miniatures just to paint because they are so spectacular and they are so beautiful and they're so easy to put together and paint. And as that, like, a miniature hobbyist, yeah, that's the thing for me. Age of Sigmar, I really like. It's something that I know 40K will never do, but Age of Sigmar does, and it's that kind of skirmish sensibility where it's not like I go and then I sit down and then you go with all your army and you sit down. This, skirmish games tend to have this back and forth where it's like I activate one thing and then you activate one thing and I activate one thing, and that back and forth keeps you really engaged and into it, as opposed to like watching a guy destroy your army in a single turn. And so I like that about Age of Sigmar too, is that it brings in that sensibility into the games, unlike 40K, which I think 40K is just a spectacle of a game. Like that's what it is. It's just like it is truly a spectacle game. It looks beautiful on the table. It is incredible, and like, yeah, it's still like a first love. I still will always have a soft spot for Games Workshop miniatures and Games Workshop games. So yeah.
Jungle God asks, What are some good ways to get into writing professionally for TTRPGs? What would your advice in GMing at cons apply to that side of the industry as well?
I am a terrible person to ask how to become a designer because of the fact that I have actively and openly said I am not a designer. I cannot be a designer. Never have me design anything. Don't. Any advice from me on that topic, it should just be thrown out into the garbage as it is. I do think that just in general, when you want to work for a company, being with them at conventions and getting to know the people who work with them, that is a big thing. Like, that helps open doors, right? So networking is always going to be a big thing, given that like the tabletop industry and like just the hobby game industry as a whole is pretty small when it comes to like who's connected to who, right? Like, everyone has worked at some company somewhere, and it is like instead of 6 degrees, it's like 3 degrees. I feel like everyone who's in tabletop gaming, I could easily go 3 degrees to them, and that's pretty telling when it comes to games. And so having those network connections and building those, like, and doing that through, say GMing games, conventions, or GMing your own adventures in partnership with a publisher, that's a really good way to just have them know your face and know the name of the people who are making those decisions.
That's so true, Terry. Like, GamerCon's the perfect example. I was having a beer with Bruce, and I looked around, and to the left of me was Ed Greenwood, to the right of me was Matt Forback, and I'm sitting there talking to Bruce Cornell with Ed Greenwood to the left of me, Matt Forback to the right of me, and I'm like, this is like the best place to be if I wanted to like network and be, and everyone's so approachable. I think a lot of that too, that the misunderstanding is that most of these designers are very approachable and just great people.
Yeah, it's funny because you revere these people for being incredible designers, right? But they're also just people, and if you treat them like
And I can
people,
attest to that as a person who is kind of broken in. I can attest to that they're very helpful. They will give you so many gems. So yeah, that's the best advice though, Terry. You gave it. And that leads us into another question from our friend Zeus Legion. He says, how are errata dealt with? Are corrections posted somewhere?
Normally, like when it comes to errata, what we encounter, what we end up changing isn't like, this is a mistake, because there's so much work that is put into a book before it gets out. It's usually just like a clarification, and those types of revisions happen very like minutely. We don't really publish them because the meaning and the intention is still the same. But if there's something that we can just clean up in terms of like make that designer vision more crystallized, that's like 98% of any erratas we do is that. So we don't really track them. If there is like, in terms of that's just because of the process we have at MCG and how much work we put into those games, and how much how thoughtful the designers are in their design, and how collaborative the editing process is, and how many eyes get put on a game before it goes out. So
Michael J. Pasta asks, did you work on Old Gods of Appalachia, and what was the best part of it? If you did, I guess the best part of it that you've seen so far.
Yeah, so I got to see this world being built. Like I in terms of like getting to envision it through and see that experience through, like I got to see it start from the very beginning, and I got to see us collaborate with the people at Deep Nerd who write and produce the podcast. So I got that insight and see it from that very inception all the way through. And so in terms of like what I contributed, it's it's kind of hard to track because like I looked at the words. That was my job, as I looked at the words. But I think when I look at the thoughtfulness of the design that came from Shauna and the thoughtfulness of the era, I mean, I think that's it. One of the things that I got to contribute to that game that I'm extremely proud of is the awareness of material culture and fashion. And if you look at the period clothing, I'm kind of like a 20th century fashion amateur historian. Like, I love that stuff. I collect that stuff. I sew, and so like I actually have like antique sewing machines that I repair and use. So like that's like my other hobby, and so like era specific fashion is really interesting to me. And so like there's a reason why when you look at the art, people who are out in public have hats. That's just a thing of that era, and it's really easy to skip and not think about. So like when it came to the art, I was privileged enough to be able to like throw out like, hey, these people, the skirt's too long here, the shape's too tight here, the hat should look like this, and so forth. So like that was a really nice thing that I got to bring to that project that's different from what I normally do.
That's actually really, really good because, that attention to detail just makes a lot of the difference. That also increases the level of immersion that you get, and it just, I think all of those aspects are perfect. So our next question is from our very own Ancient Albatross. He wants to know, what's your favorite tactics roguelike video game, if you have one?
Oh my gosh. I don't play a lot of video games anymore. Like I used to play a lot of RTSs, so like StarCraft was like a thing I played. I still occasionally play it, like StarCraft 2 with my husband, like we'll boot up a game and just like, do some 2v comp like sort of experiences, or the new StarCraft has like the 10th anniversary StarCraft has like multiplayer campaign games, which are really fun, kind of. So those are the kinds of games I really like, which I don't know. I don't think that's exactly surprising given that I, am a miniature wargamer and I love that kind of style of game. That's pretty appealing to me. And I was playing RTSs before I was a miniature wargamer, so those run deep. And so like I don't think there's that style of game, that style of game for me anyways, is not in fashion anymore. Nobody makes them, so it's hard to kind of pick one. But yeah, I still love this stuff for StarCraft.
You played Red Alert, Teri? You remember Red Alert?
Oh my gosh, I played. That's the one with Tim Curry in the video acting, chewing up every scene, and you're just like, what the hell am I experiencing? I will always have a soft spot for that game. But like, the gameplay itself, by the time you evolve and you're playing like StarCraft, it's totally different. But like, I'm also like really into like those Korean esports. Like one of my, like I still watch like competitive StarCraft when I get a chance to, because it's so compelling and it's so good. And it's
very last question. This one's for me, but Sean was a designer for HeroClix for a while. So if you could convince the MCG team to make a tactical miniatures game, what setting would you want it to be in?
Oh my god, do you know I would kill for a Numenera skirmish game? I would kill for a Numenera skirmish game. We have Numenera miniatures, and like I would love to play that game. I won't lie. I think
crossover to bring the dino miniatures in there.
Right. It's I think it's just like, I think it would be really, there's so many interesting things in that universe, but like from a miniature collector standpoint, from someone who likes to paint and play interesting miniatures, for someone who really likes to paint miniatures whose flesh color isn't just elf flesh, like it's like darker. Like, you know, the idea of having miniatures and a miniatures game that I can collect in that universe is it's just cool to me. So like that would be the universe, but like I don't know, that seems like a hard sell. Miniatures are a whole other thing. Like a whole other thing to design, a whole other thing to make.
I go to Numenera because there's just so much you could do with it.
Oh, like, I mean, come on, it's so cool. It's just a cool place, and like the kind of tabletop scenery I could make for Numenera. Oh my gosh, how incredible, right? Like, I just think about it and I geek out, and so like,
you could say the same thing for the Strange. I mean, just me. I mean, you got rough. You got, you know, you got the realm where Sherlock Holmes. Could you imagine having like some weird thing against the dandies against the coppers? You know, in a Sherlock Holmes setting, it could just be crazy.
It'd be cool. Different recursions. I'm totally. I'm right there with you. I think it's. I just think that they're the universes that are like novel and specific to MCG, they're just so well thought out and so imaginative and so different than the normal kind of, I don't know, generic, you know, portion of comparable, I should say. That, you know, they are very interesting, exciting things to me.
All right, Terry, so we just got rid of all the easy stuff. That was the easy stuff. Here's the Cypher Unlimited world famous rapid fire questions. You guys answer as much or as little as you like. Here's where we dig deep into your soul, right, Terry? We pull out your essence. We stretch it on the table for the whole world to see. Are you ready for the CU rapid fire questions?
I am ready to bear it all.
First question. Player or GM?
Player.
Question 2.
I'm lazy.
Okay.
I'm lazy, so prep is hard for me. I'd rather have fun and not do the work.
Well, you've already said that you have done some GMing, so do you pull punches or do you like TPKs?
Oh, that's. I will pull the punches. I won't lie, because my group. I love them, but if I kill my husband, he's gonna pout, and I am not gonna sleep in my bed. So, it's an important thing, you know? Like, listen, I'm not gonna give marital advice on CU, but, like, killing your spouse in a game is... Just think about it for a second longer.
On the couch. You don't do
Right?
that.
Especially if it's your wife.
Right? No, oh my gosh.
Online or in-person gaming?
In person. If I could choose anytime, always in person if I can. I like to share air with people. Even though that's like not a cool thing to say in an era post-COVID, I'd rather breathe the air with the people I game with.
Announce the difficulty or keep it secret?
Keep it secret. I think that if it should be fun enough that, like, in the scene you have a good inkling of what the difficulty should be based on, like, what's been articulated. And so for me, like, having that intuition is really, really interesting. More interesting.
Coffee or sweet snacks at the gaming table?
Sweet every time. Oh my god, give me the diabetes, 100%.
Oh.
I don't need the heart condition that the salt will give me. Like, whatever. Diabetes. There's a photo of me from Universal Studios Florida where I stood in line for a cotton candy, like, puff that was like this big. And my husband said, me holding that, he took a picture of me and said, I have never seen you happier in your life. And that includes our wedding day and when our daughter was born. So, like, yeah, sugar.
RP or combat?
RP.
Mm-hmm.
No. Why I play these games.
PDFs or physical books?
Physical. Oh my gosh. physical. I even now when I look against, like when I'm referencing something from a manuscript or looking at stuff, I will actually go and get the book I need. Like even so, this is the style guide we use for. This is style guide we use for our books. You know, it's a Chicago Manual of Style. They have an online version. I have a membership to the online version. I do not use it. I pull out my book and like look it up, and because that's how much of a book person I am.
We like physical books.
Yep.
All right, pen and paper or digital notes?
Pen and paper. Oh my gosh, I have so many notebooks around here, just like sticking around, like notes and all sorts of things, because I'm just always sketching and writing and doodling and all that stuff. I love having a piece of paper pen.
Nice. Pre-written adventures or original content?
Be written. For me to run, absolutely 100%. I'm not imaginative enough. I'm not good enough a writer to make something fun, but I know the people who make those things, and they are really good at making fun things.
Well, you gotta stop.
The world famous rapid fire questions. Yay!
I survived them.
You survived them. This has been fantastic, Terry. This has been so awesome. I mean, I got to finally meet you in person at GameOCon, and it was fantastic. I got to play with you. It was even better. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone. I hope I didn't I hope I didn't say something that Charles is gonna be mad about tomorrow. It's like, you shouldn't have shown that. I'm like, well, too bad. It's already in the internet now. So
oh, they'll be talking about it on the server for the next 24 hours.
There's definitely gonna be a conversation. But like Anthony said, thanks again. It's been a long time coming. We've been trying to get you here. We're so happy that you finally made it. I want to thank everybody out there on the interwebs who joined us tonight. To see you, great community, great family. We love you guys. And Anthony, I think you want to tell the world something.
Do you want to go first, or is it me? After my spiel, right?
Yep.
If you like us and you like what we do, join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monte Cook games. We have the largest fan-run Discord server for everything MCG. There's games being run there daily, great conversations being had. If Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. It's not as big as our Discord, but there's still great conversations happening there daily. Follow us here or subscribe to us on Twitch, or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, and subscribe there. We're trying to build both those platforms up simultaneously, and any help we can get from you will be greatly appreciated. Our videos are always free, but if you want to help us out with a little donation, give us something on Ko-fi. It helps us out with arranging things like CypherCon and giveaways and stuff like that. So we take that money and give it right back to you anyway. So if you want to give us something, we'll love you for that. If you want to rock some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like the shirt Dean got on or the hat I got on, go to our online store and pick up some cool CU merch. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yes, thank you guys so much for coming, and thank you so much, Terry, for coming on. This was an excellent talk. Great look behind the scenes here, as someone said. Thank you, everyone. And from us at the CU, we will see you later.